Yesterday, of course, was May Day. That is a leftist holiday. And with all the protests going on across these universities across the country, of course, we were expecting to see some violence. Now, the police have been tearing down many of these camps. They tore down the UCLA camp. They were seen on camera firing beanbags into the crowd, though many people reported rubber bullets. I'm pretty sure they were beanbags. You can take a look at the weapons they were using. They looked like the less lethal shotguns. But we got news from the Post-Millennial. 15 Portland police vehicles were torched. Now, they say it's suspected arson in their headline, and I'm going to give you my opinion. I don't think the cars spontaneously combusted at night. I'm assuming someone set them on fire on a leftist protest day where leftists were smashing up buildings in the downtown area. So we're going to go ahead and make the assumption Antifa torched these police vehicles. There you go. The police in Portland were tearing down the Portland camps, and we have a rather humorous video of the children playing cops and robbers with sawed in half garbage cans running into, trying to, I guess, tackle a cop and then getting arrested. Because these kids are playing games. They're playing Revolutionary and Empire. It's a silly game. We'll talk about that. We got a bunch of other news. A big story that's been going around is the question of whether the Daily Wire, they've been accused of gagging Candace Owens so she cannot speak about any, disparage the company. And that actually inhibits her ability to debate Ben Shapiro. And so many people are saying the Daily Wire is acting disingenuously, but we can break that down. And then, of course, in the Donald Trump corruption, the corrupt Donald Trump trial, where they've got no statutory basis in law, Trump is being held in contempt again. The judge has not issued his ruling. They're saying he violated the gag order for a fourth time. But guess what? It's got to the point where even CNN defended Trump after they were forced to bring up insults from Michael Cohen. And they said, you know, they read it on air, and Jake Tapper was like, I apologize in advance for saying these things, and then said, which we will mention on the show, but we'll wait a little bit, what Michael Cohen called Trump. And then Dana Bash said this gives Trump credibility that Cohen is attacking him and he needs to respond. He's targeting his presidential campaign. So we'll talk about all of that. Before we do, head over to castbrew.com and buy coffee. We got great coffee here. We got Appalachian Nights. Of course, we also have Alex Stein's Primetime Grind, 2 times caffeine. Drink responsibly. Heaven forbid more people start acting like Alex Stein. But, you know, look, we're selling coffee, so we're gonna promote it. But good on you, Alex Stein. We're big fans of his show and his work. And then, of course, we have Appalachian Nights and Rise with Roberto Jr. as well as Stand Your Grounds. When you support Cast Brew Coffee, you are supporting us. It is our company. We sponsor ourselves because we're building physical locations. Our location in Martinsburg is currently in the permitting phase, which it's been held up in for basically ever, but we think we're getting there, and it should be moving along soon. And then you can go to timcast.com and click Join Us. Become a member to hang out for our uncensored call-in show, where our members call in to talk to us and our guest Monday through Thursday at 10 p.m. And if you are a member, you will also periodically get notifications through email when we do our in-person live shows in Martinsburg. We've done one so far. Right now, we're kind of waiting because we've got we are working on setting up something for the Libertarian Convention, and we have an event we're working out for the RNC, which makes it difficult for us to plan a third event at the same time, or events. But once we get through this, we want to get to the point where we're doing an event every single month. So you want to be a member so that you can get those email notifications when they go. That's the only way we're going to notify people. But also, the location we're building for Cast Brew is going to have on the second floor a members-only club, which is $100 a month. It's a key holders club, so you'll get a key that you can swipe on the door and come and hang out, and there'll be drinks and TV. And this is to create a space for people to network in the area, and we hope to do this in many locations. So castbrew.com, timcast.com, become a member, smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with all your friends. Joining us tonight to talk about this and everything else is Matt Kibbe.
Hey, it's good to be back, and my name is Matt Kibbe. I'm president of Free the People. We produce video content to turn on young people to the ideas of liberty. We do a lot of comedy. We're doing a lot of documentaries, and we have a new investigative series coming out called The Cover-Up, where we get to the bottom of lab leaks and bioterrorism and all the stupid things that the government did to the American people. And I'm also the host of Kibbe on Liberty on Blaze TV.
Right on. Well, thanks for hanging out. Should be fun. We got Phil hanging out.
Hello, everybody. My name is Phil Labonte. I'm the lead singer of the heavy metal band All That Remains. I'm an anti-communist and counter-revolutionary. Just so you know, today, if you look down in the comments or the description down on the bottom here today of the video, you can click the link and you can pre-save our new single, All That Remains new single, Divine. It's going to be It'll populate at like midnight tonight, so if it's for Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, Tidal, and Deezer. So go ahead and pre-save that link. What's up, Hannah Claire?
Hey, and if people go back to last night's members only episode, they can watch the video premiere, which was very, very cool. I'm Hannah Claire Brimla. I'm a writer for scnr.com. That's Scanner News. Follow all of our work at Timcast News on Instagram, Twitter. They're an amazing team. I'm grateful to be a part of it. Hi, Serge.
Yo.
Voice just cracked like
Well,
I was
all right.
going through puberty.
Here's the first story from the Post-Millennial. 15 Portland police vehicles torched in suspected arson attack. The suspected arson attack came after Antifa destroyed businesses downtown for May Day. I love you, Post-Millennial, and I understand why you said suspected, but I'm just going to go ahead and say I don't think the vehicles spontaneously combusted, and I don't think someone accidentally tripped and fell and dropped their kerosene and lighter onto 15 vehicles all in the same night. I think it's fair to say it's arson, and I think it's fair to say, they put in the subtitle that it came on a day when Antifa destroyed businesses downtown. It also came on a day when the police are raiding their encampment and arresting people at Portland University. So I would just like to say, in my humble opinion, Antifa and far leftists torched a bunch of police vehicles yesterday. The challenging thing with this is, we've been covering this stuff for so long that I feel like it is. You ever like drink a Coke or something and then try and eat ice cream right afterwards, and it tastes it's like there's no sweetness to it because you've like desensitized. That's what it's like.
Yeah.
It's like we've covered so much Antifa violence. It's like, oh, only 15.
I think this could be potentially global warming, because global warming is responsible for so much. It's impossible to tell what it's up to next. No, I think you're right. I can understand why Post-Millennial is doing this. If you haven't, arrested and convicted someone, you have to say alleged and be careful of the language. But probably the rioters who were involved with Antifa also burned the car.
These were revolutionary communists. They are terrorists, and I endorse the state stomping just stomping the hell out of them. Find them, throw them in jail because they are trying to destroy the country.
They could kill people.
Yeah.
I mean,
they say
that's crazy,
they
dude.
openly say that they're revolutionary. They say they want to overthrow the United States. This is what they say. Give them the smoke they are begging for. Give them the smoke.
That is, of course, it's called CS smoke.
Yeah.
Do you know what CS stands for? Genuine question, because someone looked that up.
I don't know.
In Ferguson, when they fired the tear gas, it's called CS smoke. And so CNN said they're not using tear gas. In fact, it's just smoke. And meanwhile, everyone's going, oh, like my eyes. Yes, because they don't call it tear gas.
No.
And the other thing, too, I learned is that pepper spray is apparently also tear gas.
Yeah, it's just a
different,
powdered.
The CS stands for it's a very long word meaning chemicals. And as I am not Ian the scientist, I cannot read it to you. That's what the internet is trying to tell me right now.
Because they have canisters that say CS smoke, CS gas. Oh, I see. Chlorobenzyl malonate.
Yeah, see why I avoided it?
Really?
I think that means not good for your eyes.
Yes.
Yeah, so they just call it
It's
CS
its Latin
gas.
name.
Chlorobenzyl malonitrile. I can understand why the police call it CS gas now.
Tim, I think you're being too kind to Post-Millennial because they buried the lead here. The real story is that there's still 15 cars in Portland to burn.
Oh, right.
Because I've been to Portland recently, and it's
How are they doing?
It's kind of a festering hellhole.
Really?
Yeah.
I went there. The last time I was there was years ago. It was funny. There was some video. I can't remember why people were posting it, but it was a video of like Proud Boys marching. And they claimed this old video was a video of something else. And I was like, I know that's fake news because I was at that march. I know where that is. They were in Portland. And it was crazy because I was there a few days in advance. And so I'm walking around, I'm going to the store. I think I like bought a phone or something. I needed to like get an upgrade. And there are signs that they tape, posters saying this person is a Nazi. And it's pictures of like random people. And I'm like, I don't know what this is, but they were everywhere. They just put up these posters of people. And now, over the past several years, we've seen all the news that the downtown area is basically gone. Nobody wants to have a business
It's
there.
like a zombie apocalypse now. And all the businesses finally gave up, and people are now working from home. So there's no people during the day, which means there's no restaurants, there's no nightlife. And it's just, they killed it.
They're collapsing the economy there.
killed it.
I remember listening to this interview NPR did with local business owners, probably on the downtown area of, I know it was in Portland, and they were saying, well, we don't necessarily believe in the things they believe in, but we will put the signs up so they know that we're friendly to their causes, and basically in hopes of being left alone, and it never worked.
It never works.
These people that are trying to fight the cops and trying to attack the cops and stuff like that, these are the same people that shot that MAGA dude. Like, they're of the exact same political bent, right? They're the same people that would smash in a building, smash in someone's property because they didn't have the right sticker in the window or whatever. These are the same people that will stop emergency services from getting through their protest while people are having heart attacks or dying. They're all revolutionary communists. They specifically say they want to take down the United States. Give them the fight they're looking for. Let the government should send the police in and
agreed.
Fight and go get them.
I'm seeing all these people on social media being like, the free speech warriors are not so for free speech anymore. And I'm like, oh, the commies are crying. These far leftists are smashing up people's businesses, putting people's lives in danger, and then they get mad when the police comes in and gives them exactly what they ask for. People, look. They say the ends justify the means. That's what these people believe. And I'm like, so this is what they're saying. They think they're justified in smashing things up, burning vehicles, and they've killed people because in the end, it'll be justified. Yeah, in the end, they will create government doing just this. So when they demand government based on violent force, I say the police should go in and respond in kind under the law, which the law allows, to stop violent criminals, because they're saying they want government of force. Okay, well we can oblige. The police can go in and stop you from using this force, countering your force with theirs, and then we can all clap and say that congratulations, you've got what you've asked for.
Speech is speech. Violence is violence. There's a pretty bright line there. And violence should never be tolerated. I have a friend that lives in San Francisco. She's very successful. She refuses to leave Haight-Ashbury because she believes that the Marxists that run the government absolutely want to run away anybody who's successful, anybody that could actually keep the city, restore the city, make it worth living there again. And she won't do it. She's not leaving because she thinks that's exactly what they want. It looks to me like Portland's the thugs have won that fight.
Take a look at this tweet from Andy No. He says, at the May Day Antifa riot downtown Portland, the extremists in the Black Bloc marched from the Portland State Library encampment where they threw mortar explosives and smashed up businesses and property. Portland police made no arrests. The attack was pre-announced on social media. Take a look at this. May Day scavenger hunt. Here's a list of business orgs who profit off the settler colony of Israel that we'll pass on the march. Keep your eyes out and take whatever autonomous action feels good. They label these businesses.
They literally just threw Israel's name in there as an excuse to go and smash up these corporations. And if these were private businesses owned by a person, I would endorse the person getting out there and defending their business.
Well, and no one who's going on this scavenger hunt, so to speak, is actually going to verify any of this. They're going to read this piece of paper and be like, haha, cool.
Yeah.
It's sort of illogical, but it does speak to the control this movement has over the masses, that it's brought together. They are willing to create an ideological incentive for them to do chaos, and the people are not willing to say, hey, I'm an independent thinker and this is why I don't think I'm going to do that.
They're a tiny minority that intimidate the normal people that want to live normal lives, that go to work every day, that do the things that keep society together and keep society going. They do this because they know that they don't have anything to lose, because they have no lives, they don't have jobs, they don't have to go to work, they're not the normal people. So they go and they make a stink and they scare the crap out of the normal people, and so the normal people are afraid to do anything about it.
Idle hands, devil's playground. But I also wonder, you ever see that meme where it was I don't know if it was like a guy telling a story in some post. He said that he rented an apartment and then one day he heard a gunshot and he got worried, and he went out to his backyard or whatever and looked around and he saw his neighbor holding a gun, and his neighbor said, "Don't worry, that was me. just fired into the ground. I do this every once in a while to keep the property taxes down. Something like that.
Insane.
Yeah, I wonder if what's actually happening is it would be actually a hilarious story that there's a conspiracy of wealthy, like generationally wealthy white liberals who live in Portland who want to buy up as much property as possible. So every night they dress up like Antifa and claim, oh, Israel, oh, geez. Then they cause all this damage. Everybody leaves. They sink the property value. They buy it up. And then 3 years, they stop doing it. You know what I mean? Ryan Long had a comedy bit about this, Antifa glass repair. And he's like, by night, we are Antifa. By day, we repair windows. And then they get a call and like, oh, wow. Oh, I can't believe that happened. Yeah, we'll be right there with the new window for you.
I actually do have. I know a guy like we're mutuals on Xbox Live that repairs windows in Portland. And he was like, he was so damn busy.
Seamus, if you're listening, someone already commented in chat. Seamus, we need you. Seamus, it's a video where it's a guy. Actually, Seamus might have already done this. It's a guy driving around in like a Porsche or like a Model S Plaid, and he's got gold diamond studded sunglasses and a grill, and it's just like a glass repair company.
I learned today that there like the majority of renters in the U.S., like people who rent their homes or apartments, live in basically like 240 counties of the nation's like just over 3,000, and a lot of them are obviously like around LA, in New York City, you know, things like that. And so I would be interested to see sort of the cross map of Antifa activity and renters, like people who aren't actually tied to the community. They're sort of claiming social ties to the community. But if it got really bad, they would all leave if they wanted to. So anyways, that's from my think tank that I just invented right now. I'll create that map for you guys.
What is the end? Your friend saying that she doesn't want to leave because she thinks they want her to leave, but there's nothing you can do about it. Like the system will be broke. It's very difficult to build a machine. It's very easy to throw a wrench in the spokes.
Yeah. Well, she's of means where she's fighting back politically, and she's actually trying to seat people who aren't crazy in the government. Because I mean, Portland only happened because the mayor and the city council and eventually the police let it happen, and they let it fester and they let it get big, and pretty soon it becomes this culture where all of these kids are doing this for a living. You don't have to let it be that way. So the question is, can you ever take it back? Can you actually ever restore it so that people who work and produce and create and generate revenue for the city, will they actually come back? That's a question, because you can also just migrate.
Yep.
And move somewhere else and live somewhere else.
I don't know. I kind of recommend it. I think the issue is culture. And these cities, the reason Antifa is getting away with it is there is no culture. Imagine if the overwhelming majority of people agreed with each other on how these things should be dealt with. You wouldn't need to worry about anything. You wouldn't need to fight at all. The idea that you're going to government being like, we better get good people in, means good people aren't trying to get in, and you're actively trying to encourage people to engage. And that's a good thing, but it does mean that there's no shared culture. If you go to a rural neighborhood, a tight-knit small community, Antifa shows up, the locals are going to come out and they're going to be like, don't try it. And they're going to be in agreement. The cops are going to be standing alongside the people who live there. In Portland, the cops go, I don't care. I'm not getting involved. I don't care who you are, because there's no community. There's no culture. So then you've got businesses being like, the cops won't defend me. They vote against the cops. What do you expect?
Yeah, and the cops are like, well, the government won't take our side even though they're writing our checks. I mean, I think what's interesting is that a lot of this is not solution oriented, whereas if you have investment in your community, if you have a shared culture, you want to see it thrive. You are part of something, and you don't look around saying like, bah, burn it all down. But with all of these attacks, especially in Portland, it's ultimately about the chaos. The chaos is the ends to all of this. It's the purpose for it. And that means that the city is not something they're trying to preserve or add into, so to speak.
It's also, it is a political monoculture. I mean, one of the problems is that there was no competition for governance. Everybody's a Democrat, but not everybody's just a Democrat. They're a woke, check all the boxes Democrats. And the mayor, I think he's still the mayor, I forget his name, but he was unwilling.
Was it Tom Wheeler? Tom Wheeler?
Yeah, it's still Wheeler. And he was unwilling to do anything about them, and they repaid him by showing up at his apartment building.
Yep.
And terrorizing him.
That's Portland. Look, man, we have a bunch of laws in the books that aren't enforced. We have a bunch of laws that are enforced that aren't even in statutory law. Police in New York creating frozen zones. And then the issue is who controls power and what is the community willing to accept or not accept. Portland will not accept police arresting protesters. So the protesters destroy the city, and then these people who refuse to complain about it and let it happen flee and then bring their politics to other cities.
Yeah, and it's not. It doesn't take.
It's rat utopia experiment.
It doesn't take a lot of like for a police force to deter and prevent that type of behavior. It doesn't take a lot of like bashing heads together and stuff. The police generally know the people that are causing problems in an area. You talk to police and they see the same faces all the time. They get to know the people because they do spend some time in the community, and the people that cause problems continuously cause problems. The police do have the ability and the know-how to clean an area up and make these kind of behaviors stop. You just have to have a DA that will, you have to have a legislature or a judiciary that will keep these people off the streets.
Let's jump to this next story. Derivative. Police move in to clear Gaza camp from Portland State University library, arrest made. It's not so much this story that I want to talk about. It is a video explaining and helping you understand what's going on. I can tell you very simply, Portland is the city equivalent of a mom at an ice cream shop with her 9-year-old son who's going, "Mom, I want 3 scoops of ice cream." And she goes, "Okay, please just stop yelling and I'll give you whatever you want." That's what it is. And I'll show you. With this video from Ali London, students wearing, let me pause real quick. Students wearing masks and bike helmets charge at police using garbage can shields. As they rush towards police, they trip over and fall in the dirt.
Okay, that's awesome.
Well, here's the video of the police making the arrests of these criminals. And here's how they respond.
This is hilarious.
Look, they're charging. They're charging the police.
Go get him, buddy. You got this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here we go, watch.
It's so good.
This person on the right actually charged and attacked a police officer.
You're going to jail,
with
man.
a garbage can.
That's a felony.
Look at this. Look, I want to say this. First, I am grateful these people are so stupid that they're playing make-believe that they are using garbage cans, because we don't want these people to be going out with actual weapons or anything like this. But they may as well be going out with plunger darts bought from Walgreens with a little tiny dough and the little suction cups on it.
They have Nerf guns. They're like,
and
we
Nerf
got
guns.
this.
It's better than them going out there and actually being violent. But it shows you these kids are playing. They're playing like children with plastic shields and charging into police thinking they're playing a game. And it's because the adults have left the room. They're not taking care of the young people in this. And now you've got a bunch of permanent children running around smashing things. You take a look at that video from Colombia where the police barricade the door and the woman goes, "Oh my God, it's finals. Can I go home?" It's like, lady, you're committing felonies. You're probably going to go to jail.
Yeah.
You're not going home. But I blame their parents. A whole generation of disgusting, lazy, spineless, disaffected parents. And then I'm offended by it. I think Bad Religion wrote a song about it.
I think one of the interesting things with all of this is that they are such a hive mind that they're looking for validation. You know that one guy with the trash can, shield was like, "This is my moment. I am a hero for the cause. Here we go." Even though, like, what did he think was going to happen? There's no long term. And the other part is that Portland is having a terrible time. There aren't that many police in Portland. I think in 2021, police recruitment hit an all-time low and crime was just on the rise. I mean, I don't think anyone who's interested in law enforcement is like, and I'll be a police officer in Portland, because they don't want to deal with this, right? If you could get a nice job in a nicer suburb or, in Idaho or somewhere else, you would do that, because this is just ridiculous. And I think ultimately you're kind of at the mercies of these impulsive perma children.
I think these kids are actually surprised that the cops are going to do anything, because the expectation And the tradition and the history of the last, whatever it is, 4 or 5 years, is that we can do whatever we want, and no one's gonna push back. And then he's on his ass saying, "What just happened?"
Well,
that's not how it is.
Not only that, like Tim was saying, this is probably a symptom of kids that have not had any real discipline growing up. Right now, I'm not talking about physical discipline, but I know there are a lot of people my age that are raising kids that their kid has never heard them say no. You know, that has never heard.
It's a kid in an ice cream shop screaming that he wants an extra scoop.
That is what's going on with a lot of this, and then they run into reality, which is a police officer that has been told, no, all these kids are going to jail. So all those police officers are going to round you up and they're going to throw you into a van to bring you to jail.
And the problem is, however, when things like this happen, where the kid charges a cop full speed with a plastic shield like a moron, they'll likely just get let go. Now, they may get charged with something, and then their parents are going to complain. You take a look at when they were torching D.C. on during Trump's inauguration.
Mm-hmm.
The protesters got paid millions of dollars. And now it broke down to several $1,000s each or something like that. Or it could have even been more than that. I think it was like over $1 million split between a couple hundred people. So the adults have left the room. These are 20-year-olds who are behaving like 7-year-olds. Their behavior will not change. They have no honor. They have no integrity. They have no understanding of how the world works. I beg and pray that they get the world they're asking for, because then they will cry buckets when they realize what they've done to this beautiful society that we once had.
They're literally getting it now.
No, they're not. No,
but I'm talking about getting the fighting with cops and stuff like that.
But that's make-believe for them. They're getting let go. I'm talking about when bears are roaming the city streets because there's no police anymore. When a guy breaks into their house and they're going, oh no, why am I being robbed all of a sudden? There's human crap all over the streets. And every time this stuff happens, they just go, I blame the cops. There's a great post. You know what? Let me see if I can pull this up from Defiant L's. You guys know Defiant L's on
Yes.
Twitter and Instagram? Let me pull this one up. See if I can find it. And it's, I don't think Instagram wants me to actually find it. Okay, here we go. Let's see if I can pick this one up. Here we go. Joshua P. Hill says, today starts with cops attacking students for their solidarity with Gaza in Atlanta, Chicago, and Princeton, New Jersey. The Free Palestine movement, like every single movement for a better world, requires the abolition of the police. And then 2 days later, he tweeted, white supremacists are now marching in Charleston, West Virginia, with no police in sight. Children.
The abolition of the police.
So there's all of these cities, but Portland again is this festering example of everything they do wrong. It's not they talk about restorative justice, but what they mean is catch and release. No matter what you do, no matter what you burn, no matter what you break, we're gonna pick you up and then let you go without even being arrested. And we've done a documentary about restorative justice. Real restorative justice teaches young people who do something wrong accountability. They have to say, I did that, I stole that, and I feel they have to look their victim in the eye. And instead, what they say in Portland, oh, this is restorative justice, but it's no justice at all.
Right.
It's no responsibility.
They're not being taught to take ownership of their actions.
Yeah, there's no accountability.
I find, I'm loath to bring up all the college campus protests, but I think this is something we're seeing with the generation of children who are told activism and virtue signaling is the most important thing that you could do. Prioritize it over anything else. And I agree. There's sort of a lack of discipline in the home. There's a lack of consequences, but they think that they are on the right side of history, and therefore there aren't consequences, which is very different, I think, than people who did protest for civil rights in the past, or other people who have taken to protesting as a form of political activism. I think previously people knew you were taking a risk, that you would face arrest, that there could be consequences that could affect you long term, but you really felt like this was worth it. This is like the opposite, saying we shouldn't face consequences because what we're doing is the most important thing ever. It's almost delusional. I think I talk about this a little bit too much, but when you're a young person, if you're looking around, and even if it's just 30% of people your age, if they're acting like this, does that make you want to be like that? I mean, if you grew up in Portland, or if you went to college there and you love it as a city, but you're watching it get torched, do you look at these people and say, well, keep up the good work, this is going great? Or do you say, I think of myself as being on sides with you, but actually you're making my life impossible?
I think what happens is that people take the easy path, and you either flee or you join.
Yeah.
And that's why Portland is burning.
Do you think there's something unique about Portland that made it the hotbed?
Yeah, they tolerated too much BS very early on, and it became like a cool thing to do. Like, this is like a day camp for these kids, right? This is a fun thing to do. They're part of the cool kids. And now they're going to F around and find out that maybe at some point, even these cities don't tolerate that kind of behavior because it's a very practical thing. Like, if they run out of a tax base, at some point, the government says, I
don't think so. I think people leave.
Yeah.
I think what happens, what we are seeing is when the summer of love happened, those who are more inclined to merit, to build and be responsible, leave. What's left is, well, what happens if you have 10 children in a classroom and the teacher goes, I can't do this, I'm done, and leaves? Well, the kids are going to start just doing random things. They're going to trash the place. They're going to be drawing all over the walls. It's going to be bedlam. So I'd like to believe that in Portland, there's a breaking point and people finally say, enough, we need to get our city in order. I don't think so. Property values go down. So the people who own buildings will be like, I better just sell this. Well, they're not going to get their asking price, so they'll sell it at a loss to someone who's thinking, wow, 10% under market, I'll take it. And then they go, oops, I shouldn't have bought this. Property values will continue to tank. Many people will probably default on their loans. We're already seeing this in San Francisco, where large corporations like the Westfield Mall, and I believe it was, what was it, the Hilton, or there was another hotel, basically told their creditor, you know what, you can have it, buy, and just dipped out and abandoned an entire mall just like in the middle of the city, saying there's no point. So what's happening when you have no community is that no one wants to be the person to lay the brick so that every day we can have shelter. And I've experienced this growing up, and it's disheartening. But throughout my life, I have found it has become increasingly difficult to convince people to do any amount of work. I believe it's the millennial generation. I believe millennials are mostly lost. They want everything and they want to do nothing. I tell people, I remember back when I was living in Chicago skateboarding, and I went to all of my friends and I said, we're always complaining about the harsh winters and our inability to skate. If each of us contribute only $50 a month, we can rent an indoor space. And they went, okay, you do it and then let me know. I'm like, there you go. Now you'll never have it. But I'll tell you what, when I save up the money and I get it, you're not coming because you're lazy. You don't want to contribute. And then what happens? Then they expect to be able to be let in. What's happening now is the people who live in these cities have no community. And they say, and they decide, I'm going to leave. I don't want to spend any money here anymore. And then one by one, the building falls apart. Everything starts going to crap. And then you end up with San Francisco, and there's just poop all over the streets. And the businesses are abandoned by massive corporations. And there's no one to come in and fix it because nobody wants to lose money. Who's gonna spend $10 million in San Francisco hoping the city turns around and their investment improves?
Nobody. And you see that you saw it in Detroit. Like after 2008, after the auto crisis, not that Detroit was doing great before that, but like after that, there was a serious exodus of people, and it's really, really hurt. Like Flint's a mess. Like these areas have like really been affected. And in fact, you can see it throughout the whole Rust Belt. Like as companies leave, jobs leave, and that hurts the place, the people of those places. So if you have, I am Sean, actual justice warrior. I am Sean 90, I think. He says all the time, and I think he's right. Like, poverty doesn't drive crime, but crime drives poverty because crime makes investment leave the area. Crime makes people that have means leave. If you have the means to leave, that means you're left with poor people. Your tax base dries up because even though people refuse to acknowledge it, all of the taxes are paid by a small percentage of Americans. So if you drive the wealthy people away, those are also the people that are paying taxes. That means your services get worse, your schools get worse, your police forces get worse. All of this stuff is downstream from crime, from unsafe cities. You need to have, and this was something that I was complaining about, like when people started talking about ACAB, like the whole ACAB sentiment, right? Not the idea that communities don't support your police forces. That was going to always mean that you were going to get a lower quality police force. And we're seeing those results now.
Someone super chatted saying that they think it was the bad parents. Jazzonaut says bad parents were Gen X. I don't think so. Gen Xers, for the most part, had Gen Z kids, and Gen Z kids are turning out to be relatively based. Maybe it's because of their circumstances, but I do believe that many boomers were bad parents. I certainly think there are great boomers, and there are many boomers who have great kids and were great parents. I think the boomers gave us Star Trek: The Next Generation, brilliant. But there were a lot of boomers who were like, I don't know what, post-hippie, lazy, do whatever you want for their kids. And now their kids are running around smashing things, shaving their heads, and they're going to struggle to survive. If any one of these kids in Portland, and I know they're adults over the age of 20, but they're functional children, you take 10 of those kids and you teleport them instantly into, I don't know, the middle of Alaska. They're done. It's just over. Now imagine you take 10 young Amish people and blink, they're all of a sudden in the middle of the woods. They're going to be like, well, let's get to it. And you come back in a week and there's a village and you're like, wow, these people know how to build.
Yeah.
Do you remember when AOC so infamously said, my generation has never known true prosperity? And oh my God. It was a great punchline, but I tried to take it seriously. And I have this half-baked sort of Jordan Peterson meets Ayn Rand sort of theory about this, that we have a problem in that the capitalist system actually creates tremendous prosperity. And the big question is, do I get a third scoop of ice cream, or do I get the new iPad, or what is my trauma going to be because I don't have everything that I need? And I think there's a crisis in meaning when people don't have to work for anything. And there's a dignity that comes from work. And this is the Jordan Peterson part, but maybe also the Ayn Rand part, that the struggle itself, trying to do something with your life. And if you never had to do any of that, you're lost. You have no meaning, you have no purpose. So you see Antifa or whatever, and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna go join that because I got nothing else.
Yeah, I agree. I also think it creates a sense of envy. I think when you have a lot of people who don't really have purpose, when they look at people who do, they're filled with jealousy, and they can't always name it, but they're like, you are living life in a way that I subconsciously know I want, and therefore the fact that you have something I don't is a threat to me. And I think that's part of sort of the materialism that comes with a generation that grew up in prosperity, right? That they have so much that they can't think of life without it, and they therefore can't empathize with like what they actually need to do to create a life for themselves that's meaningful. It is wild to me how many people that I know who grew up, very comfortably, a lot of them, their parents were together, provided for them, they went to college, will turn around and be like, well, capitalism's a terrible system. Like, then tell me which one you would rather live under, because you have gotten everything you want out of life because of the system that you are now deciding is so evil.
But they don't think they have it. They don't understand what they have because they didn't ever have to get it.
And they want something else. They're lost for meaning, and so they're jealous of the idea that there's something they don't have.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on to this next story, and we'll get into social drama. The New York Post reports Daily Wire obtains gag order against Candace Owens despite Ben Shapiro wanting debate report. We also have the original reporting from Glenn Greenwald, who says, as the Daily Wire publicly negotiated a debate with Candace Owens, it secretly sought and obtained a gag order against her. The argument being that the reason why the debate has never happened is because while Candace Owens was saying let's debate and they were working out the details, behind the scenes the Daily Wire was saying she can't say these things and thus there won't be a debate. I do believe that Glenn Greenwald's, I'll give you my bias. I think Glenn Greenwald's report is biased itself. And I think it's largely due to Glenn Greenwald's bias against Israel. But there's probably something here. I think there's more to it than simply the Daily Wire was like, if Candace Owens debates us, we'll look stupid. We better seek a gag order because no arbitrator is going to be like, well, that's legitimate. There's going to be something else behind this. It looks like the story might be that Candace Owens retweeted a video of Andrew Schultz saying Ben Shapiro has exposed himself as someone who can only debate college students and can't actually debate anybody for real. And the Daily Wire took issue with that and subsequent posts, which were like likes and retweets that were basically insulting and disparaging the company. And they said, hey, knock that off. In Glenn Greenwald's reporting, they mentioned two statements. One from Candace Owens saying, He writes, when asked for comment to be included in the story, Owens replied, "I wish I could comment on this, but I can't, can neither confirm nor deny." And then went on to say, Boring said, "Your story is inaccurate to the point of being false, though he did not specify a single inaccuracy, nor did he deny that the Daily Wire had sought and obtained a gag order on Owens. At the same time, they were publicly posturing as wanting a debate with her. The confirmation we obtained of all these facts is indisputable." Boring added, "I'm sure you can appreciate how fraught a high-profile breakup like this is. For that reason, we are trying to resolve our issues with Candace privately." The issue I see right here, and this is the example that I use, is that when it comes to statements from Candace Owens, they're fine to accept that she says, "I can't talk about it." When Boring says, we're trying to keep this private, they insinuate that because he's not going into detail, it implies untoward behavior. That's why I say Glenn Greenwald's biased on this one. That being said, the story is interesting, and I'm curious what you guys think as to the debate between Candace and Ben Shapiro and Israel and all that jazz.
I mean, it strikes me as hypocritical. I'm mostly on Team Candace on this one because the Daily Wire has made a brand out of being pro-speech. And I get contracts and I get bad breakups with businesses, but this seems particularly duplicitous. Saying that I want to debate you, but I'm going to legally shut you down so that I never have to debate you. I don't like it.
But that's the assumption that's being made by Glenn Greenwald. The argument being that Glenn's effectively making an opinion piece where he says we have evidence of a gag order, and that is why there is no debate. It would certainly seem that in a legal context, if the Daily Wire was seeking a gag order, no arbitrator would agree with them if they were also publicly asking for a debate. So there seems to be components of the story missing.
From what I read, so Chris Bertman, who's Man of Bird on Twitter, he's a writer at Scanner. First off, this weekend that all of this blew up, he had some of the funniest takes in response to all of this. He's fun follow if you guys want to check him out. From what I read from his coverage today, part of the issue is that the Daily Wire is saying that by calling for this debate, she violated her agreement with the company, which, again, I don't really feel like I have a dog in this fight, but I think it seems strange that they're saying this back and forth that you had on Twitter calling for this debate is the violation of the contract when also Daily Wire employees were participating in it. Ben was in it until he had to log off for religious reasons, and then Jerry Boring picked it back up. And so it does seem slightly confusing to me that they were publicly having this debate with her and then maybe later went back and said, actually, we've decided that was a violation of our contract.
I agree with that. If they're engaging in the conversation and the argument being that Candace Owens posting Andrew Schultz and other things was disparaging, it seems strange that they would engage in that debate with her.
Yeah, it's hard to know without knowing all the language of their contract. And again, it seems like such an internal debate that I'm always wary to comment on what's going on with another company, just because we could never know for sure unless you're on the ground. But again, from what I read from Chris Bertman today, it's this fight that was going on is the problem. But again, they both participated in it.
But it seems like the only news we really have on it is from Glenn Greenwald. And I mean, this is what really got me. It's like, he's like, why isn't Boring? He says he did not specify a single inaccuracy, nor did he deny. Well, he also says we're trying to keep this private. When Candace Owens says can either confirm or deny, they stop there and they just don't even entertain why she would say that. Obviously, she's being gagged, right? So they just go, okay, thank you, Candace. Now, why won't Boring elaborate? Well, because if you go to arbitration, the arbitration says we are going to enforce a gag order. Jeremy, you also have to shut the F up. And so what may have happened is someone at the company said Candace is posting and liking these things. Then they pulled in the Andrew Schultz thing, went to the arbitrator and said this is a violation of the non-disparagement. And then and then he said, well, then you guys all need to stop posting as well. And they went, okay. Mm-hmm. And they told Candace, you need to, the arbitrator says both, everyone stop posting. And now the Daily Wire is getting flack because they're not answering Glenn's questions.
Yeah. And I can understand if you're Glenn Greenwald, him saying your reporting is false to the point of inaccuracy, you take that personally, especially when you're then okay, tell me why. And he's like, I can't, which Jeremy Boring might be legally bound not to. It's just, it's a very specific criticism to levy at a reporter. Your reporting is incorrect to the point of inaccuracy. But you can't tell me where I went wrong. I don't know. I would be uncomfortable with it as well. Not that that excuses any bias.
I mean, look, if I'm not even sure what this beef started as anymore, to be honest with you. Like, I
don't know if any of us do.
I don't know. Like, the idea that the Daily Wire says that they want to actually, if that's the case, that they would say, okay, we want to actually debate with you, but then in back channels, if that's the case, that's probably the lamest thing that you could possibly do, otherwise, like I said, I'm not even sure what they're going to debate about. Like, is it like just like, is Israel good, or
is it
Israel
anti-Semitic
bad?
to say we shouldn't fund Israel and stuff like that? Is claiming that Israel's policy is similar to the Nazis anti-Semitic? I imagine that's a lot of it.
Well, I mean, if they're gonna have the debate, like, have the debate, shit, or get off the pot.
I wonder if the real issue is that, like, Ben and Jeremy are going back and forth, and then someone else, because there's other interested investors involved, said, hey, I don't care. Y'all need to shut up because she's in violation of non-disparagement, and we don't want to deal with this.
It's probably stupid and boring.
Right, yeah. And ultimately what this comes to is the real issue behind this is literally not Ben Shapiro and Candace Owens and Daily Wire having a gag order or not disparagement. We know what the real underlying issue and the reason why this story is getting the news, right? It's Israel.
Say it.
It's Israel.
Of course it is.
It's people who are obsessed with Israel. Glenn Greenwald is hyper focused on Israel for a lot of reasons. And I'm not saying he's wrong to be. There's a lot of people who live or die by just talking about Israel. It's the only thing they care about. There are a bunch of like post-liberal and disaffected liberals who were very much Democrats, come out now on the anti-woke side. When the Israel issue happens, they're instantly standing alongside all the far leftists as it pertains to Israel. And so sure enough, like I do believe Glenn Greenwald is not a credible reporter on a lot of these issues. And there are other issues pertaining to that I've questioned him on the past pertaining to foreign policy and reporting, where I think he is very, very biased. So now you have the issue of Candace Owens, why she left the Daily Wire. It's funny because everyone's claiming it has to do with criticism of Israel. And I'm like, Jeremy Boring actually defended her when she criticized like Israel policy and like U.S. funding. He said she's welcome to be here. She's allowed to give her opinions. And then her contract ended and she left. And now everyone's like, aha, it's because she criticized Israel. Or it's like, I don't know, or her contract ended and she left. She realized she could make more money somewhere else. She didn't want to work with these guys. They don't get along. And so she left.
Yeah, I think the big thing is that there was obvious tension between her and Ben Shapiro. There's that video of him, I think it was at some sort of private dinner, criticizing her pretty intensely. But it is extremely difficult from the outside to say, especially because we're in a political space, like how much is actual political ideological difference as opposed to like personality and contractual, debate. I think that there are people who believe similar things that don't get along, and I think there are people who believe completely different things that do get along. It's hard to see when you're sort of enmeshed in all of this which one is which. I think it is, no matter how it plays out. I am sad to say that this debate isn't going to happen. I think it would have been really interesting. Neither personality involved is obligated to go into personal details on it, but I think some of the topics that they comment on, having had the debate, I think the internet would have liked it.
The internet would have absolutely liked it. It would have been an absolute S show, though, I think, personally.
So
that's why the internet would love it.
Well, yes.
Let's in the vein of internet drama surrounding Israel, let's jump to this next story, which starts with the Defiant L's post that I'd mentioned in a previous segment. This is where I'll give you the news right away. Nick Fuentes will be unbanned on X. Elon Musk will reinstate his account and allow him back on the platform. How it begins. Welcome to the internet, my friends. Joshua P. Hill, in a tweet that Defiant L's posted, he says, today starts with cops attacking students for their solidarity with Gaza in Atlanta, Chicago, and Princeton, New Jersey. The Free Palestine movement, like every single movement for a better world, requires the abolition of police. 2 days later, he tweets, white supremacists are now marching in Charleston, West Virginia with no police in sight.
That kid's a commie, too.
Yes, I'd imagine.
And super consistent in his thought, obviously.
Elon Musk then responds, goldfish memory. He posted completely contradictory demands only 2 days apart. Certainly, if I want to steel man his position, it's actually that the police attacked the Free Palestine, but didn't attack the white supremacists. Not that he wants police to do so, but we can certainly say, I don't think these people think that deeply, and I'm not going to give them the benefit of the doubt. In response to Elon Musk's post, one guy, Chris Futurist Z, says, "You work for Jews," to Elon Musk, with a post from Nick Fuentes that reads, "What does it say about our society that the cops let BLM torch our cities but won't let students criticize Israel? It means Jews control America. That is the obvious conclusion." I certainly don't think that logic is there, but certainly Nick said it. And Elon Musk responded, "While I don't condone all the actions of any one group, I must admit to being openly philo-Semitic and generally try to see the good in all people." Goya Bean Groiper responds with this AI enhanced photo of Nick Fuentes. I don't know if it's actually enhanced. I'm kidding. He says, Bring Nick Fuentes back on Twitter. He has been banned since 2021. What happened to your promise, big guy?" Elon Musk responds, "Very well, he will be reinstated, provided he does not violate the law, and let him be crushed by the comments and community notes. It is better to have anti-whatever out in the open to be rebutted than grow simmering in the darkness." Ashley St. Clair responded, "This will get enormous backlash. But if it is to be a free speech platform, it is the right move. I say this as someone who has been viciously attacked by his followers for years now. I do believe Nick was also incredibly radicalized as a result of censorship." And then Elon says, "Fate loves irony but hates hypocrisy. I cannot claim to be a defender of free speech, but then permanently ban someone who hasn't violated the law, no matter how much I disagree with what they say. This will probably cause us to lose a lot of advertisers and makes me sad, but a principle is a principle." And thus, Elon Musk has pledged to restore Nick Fuentes. And my comment on Twitter is that seeing that I said Elon Musk is based AF. I think Nick is wrong. I think his logic is not sound, but I certainly believe he has a right to say his opinions and be challenged. And the example I'd like to give is that woman from the Westboro Baptist Church, famously on Twitter, spreading her views, getting challenged, and being de-radicalized by the exposure to a larger community.
Yeah. So, like, it's not like Nick has anything to say that is worse than other people on Twitter. There are currently people on Twitter that say things that are far more offensive or whatever than Nick says, like, without a question. Guaranteed, just the fact that his name has left my mouth means that my mentions are going to have there's going to be like a meme of someone pointing at me saying you're a Jew or something like that.
Do you think it's like this? He's the scapegoat for this issue, though?
I mean, he is, but it doesn't matter because there's always going to be, as long as you're not like banning people at all for talking, banning people for talking about Israel at all, there's going to be people that are going to say things that are, that are going to be, buck wild, that are going to be like you'd expect to find on 4chan and stuff, unless you're really policing that. So bringing him back is not going to make Twitter or X any significantly different. So I don't see the problem.
What do you think, Matt?
I unfortunately have been exposed to Nick Fuentes on random occasions, and I've never found anything to like about with him or agree with him on, but I agree with Tim that this is a based move by Elon Musk. Thank God for Elon Musk right now. Until we get a blockchain solution to social media, all of our eggs are in the Elon Musk basket, and I think that's right. Let's community note the hell out of this guy, and let's forget Nick. I mean, whatever he is, but his followers could use a little bit of exposure to some other ideas.
Yeah, let's talk about the comment where I said I don't believe his logic is sound. There's a basic logic test they do where it's performed in IQ tests where they say something like, some men are tall, some tall people play basketball, therefore some men play basketball. And it's like, okay, well, yeah, sure. Then some. Then there will be like, all men are taller than women. And like, the logic puzzle, right? So when I say the logic is not sound, it's a great leap. There is so much information missing in that statement that to lead to the conclusion that Jews control America because some protests got shut down by the police while many others were defended. I certainly think there are interests that are pro-Israel. But here's ultimately what it comes to. And I think the reason why Nick should be allowed back on Twitter, on X, by Elon, and why Elon is based, is so that these conversations will emerge. The conversation around, I'll give you one example. You have a lot of people, especially Elad Eliyahu on the show, was making reference to certain comments about Israel, and he says, don't you think that that's anti-Semitic? And I said, criticizing Israel is not anti-Semitic. Israel is a government like any other country. I don't hate Muslims when I criticize Saudi Arabia for their policy towards Yemen, because they have nothing to do with Qatar or like Malaysia. Malaysia's Muslim, right? Mm-hmm. And so, or I think they have like blasphemy laws over there too. I can criticize their government, and if their government adopts a theocratic system of governance, I can criticize that too. The problem is, while you've got people like Alad or Ben or other people saying this thing, the inverse is many of the fans of Nick. And I don't want to say Nick does this does this personally, because I don't know, but his followers respond to comments about Israel with comments about Jews every single time. Not all of them. I'm saying, like right now, there will be people in the chat saying Goy and Shabos, and I'm like, making references to blanket broad Jewish practices because of the government of Israel's actions is exactly what Ben Shapiro and Alad are talking about when they say you are being anti-Semitic. And so if you were to say that because the military-industrial complex, which has billions, hundreds of billions invested in their Middle Eastern outpost of Israel, if you were to take the logic there, because the U.S. is also funding Ukraine much more right now than Israel, they're not coming out and saying Ukraine controls the United States. Certainly there are arguments about the AIPAC and how long it's been around and the strength of their lobby and everything like that. But the issue then becomes people believe that because politicians are upset, Biden in particular, over people criticizing U.S. military policy and foreign policy, the response is then Jews as a whole religious and ethnic group are in control of the United States. If you said Israel controls the United States, I'd still say you were wrong, but at least that's closer.
And you can't, very rarely can you separate, not saying that there aren't people, there aren't people that are separate that make the arguments. But if you have people criticizing Israel in a public forum, the people that don't like Jews are going to be right there with them. So being able to delineate between the people that are just criticizing Israel as a state and then people that don't like Jewish people, it's real hard, especially when you're dealing with random people on the internet or whatever. So
but it's true of anything, right? Like any topic that you're like, I'm criticizing this, the people who actually hate, if you were to criticize the Catholic Church, people who hate Catholics to their soul, their core are also going to be there, even if you just generally have an objection to the institution.
Yeah,
you do.
Here's a quick question. When it comes to the issue of Ukraine, and we've been just rabidly anti-funding of Ukraine.
Yeah.
No one's accused us of being Ukrainian. No one's been like, of being Ukraine phobic or anything like that.
The way that people react about the Jews is crazy. You can have a legitimate conversation about Israel, and that's fine, but you still are going to attract some people that are going to say some whacked out shit about Jews. It happens.
Is there an equal? I was thinking about this when it comes to the argument that because Jewish people are overrepresented in media and stuff, that shows that they control this, that, or otherwise. And I'm like, is there a similar argument about Arabic and Muslim control of oil? Because I would argue that oil actually is substantially stronger in terms of control of this planet. Our currency is backed by energy, of which the most dominant form being petroleum and coal.
Our dollar's backed by the U.S. Navy, nuclear weapons.
Right, but the actual function of the dollar's value is energy. Mm-hmm. What is the energy output? And so when you print more, the backing of currency, fiat or otherwise, is the energy output. So when I trade money to someone, I'm exchanging that for, at its root, how much energy they can put into a system in exchange for me and the direction of that energy. I'd say that the Middle Eastern nations controlling massive portions of global oil trade, the Houthi rebels, shutting down the Red Sea, threatened half the world's oil trade. Are we sitting here being like Muslims are controlling America because of oil? Look at OPEC. Look at Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia doing the weapons deals, and then the U.S. is bombing Yemen on behalf of Saudis who are upset about it. Do we come out and say Saudi Arabia controls the United States? The funny thing is, you've got people posting on Twitter these conspiracy theories that Israel was involved in 9/11, and I'm like, Saudis were involved in 9/11, and Saudis are dictating U.S. policy over oil and getting us to bomb people on their behalf. Where's the argument that Saudis or Muslims control the United States?
The reason people say the reason that there's tension with Iran is because of Israel, and there's some truth to that, but they ignore the fact that there's absolutely a fight between Iran and Saudi Arabia. Iran's Shia Muslim, Saudi Arabia's Sunni. Like, there's all kinds of history between the Persians and the Arabs and stuff. There's all kinds of reasons for Iran and Saudi Arabia to not get along. And if it wasn't for the fact that Israel's there to take the heat, there would still be regional conflict between Iran and other countries, because it's not a monolith in the Middle East. You still, like, the Kurds are fighting. There's still the civil war in Syria. Like, sure, there's the focus of Israel that everyone's focused on now globally, but it's not like the Middle East is a peaceful area. Now, granted, people are going to say, "Oh, the U.S. did it," and there might be some validity to that. But even going back to I mean, the last time it'd have to be before to the Ottoman Empire, before when it was like fairly at peace, you know. So it's not like it's not like Israel's the only tinderbox in the Middle East.
There are people who have Israel derangement syndrome, and they can't see any other context in foreign policy. They can't see any other context in Congress and in government. And it is not too dissimilar to the woke, where they scream white privilege. There are too many white people in finance. There are too many white people in the military. There are too many white people in movies. There are too many white people in government. White people control this. White people did this. White people did that. And then you have now people on the left and the right who are like, the Jews have too much control in the housing market. They're overrepresented in movies. They're overrepresented in politics. They're overrepresented. And I'm like, yeah. Great. The privilege argument again. I'm not interested.
It's so frustrating talking about this. As a libertarian non-interventionist, I have the Ron Paul view on Israel versus Palestine, which is, it's not our business.
Yep.
Agreed.
Now, I have personal views. I have lots of friends in Israel, so I've had some of them on my show, and I've had liberty perspectives on both sides. But the thing that happens, and I'm surprised that libertarians fall into this trap, when we talk about Netanyahu or the Israelis or the Palestinians, is people immediately go full collectivist, blaming the government of Israel for, or blaming all Jews for the government of Israel, or saying that every Palestinian baby that's getting killed right now had it coming because they voted for Hamas. Well, that's just dumb. This is about...
That baby didn't vote for anybody.
They probably didn't, or they
The baby literally did not vote for anybody.
Yeah.
But you can't always lump this into some sort of collectivist ideology.
It's war.
Blame the individuals who are responsible for the actions that are causing the war.
There's a war going on. I don't care. I literally don't. People are like, I see this video of someone screaming about Gaza, and I'm like, I don't care. I look, human suffering is bad. War is bad. There's war going on. Everybody claims they're right. How about this? Can we have a protest for the Uyghur Muslims in China? Because they're getting brutalized by the Chinese government. Like
all the human trafficking victims who are brought across the southern border.
Oh yeah, let's do that. Hey, that one affects us. That's what I care about. That's at least
in our backyard, like literally attached to our nation. I don't understand why Americans are only motivated by things that are happening abroad. I think compassion is good. I think the loss of life is awful. But when do we turn inward and say, hey, we have a lot of problems internally and we should start prioritizing them before we start intervening on every side of this conflict, by the way?
It's possible that there's a military-industrial complex that propagandizes this and makes us care.
Yep.
It's possible.
Yep. Matt will definitely agree with me on this. If we're actually going to be focused on like serious problems and be America first, I said it last night and I'm going to say it again. We have to focus on unfunded liabilities, focus on Medicare and Medicaid, focus on all that stuff, because the dollar is going to be devalued like mad. You're going to see, if you think the inflation that we're seeing now is a big deal, it's going to make the inflation that we've had in the past couple of years look like child's play. And that also will destabilize the whole world. If the U.S. dollar collapses, like the problems that will arise from an unmanaged de-dollarization of the whole world cannot be overstated. So if you're worried about America, you need to focus on getting in touch with your representatives and making sure they know that you want them to do something about the unfunded liabilities in the national debt.
The single biggest threat to national security, to American way of life, fill in the blank, whatever it is you care about, you should care about that.
Please go on more. Please.
Well, why do you think people don't take it seriously?
It's an abstract idea, like the destruction of the currency. And like I was talking, Thomas Massey was on my show just the other night, and we're talking about there's a bill that would seize Russian assets to help fund the war in Ukraine. I forget what it's called. And he's like, you realize that Russia buys a lot of U.S. debt, and China buys a lot of U.S. debt. And if the new precedent is foreign countries that buy U.S. debt, we can seize your stuff. That combined with the payments on the debt, that combined with massive monetization of all this money we're sending overseas, this is how empires die. And nobody seems to care because it's an abstraction, right?
And I think Americans don't understand debt themselves. I mean, they struggle with mortgages, credit card debt. Look at how we got to student loan debt. I think the concept of debt is very difficult for Americans to understand on the personal financial level. I can't imagine it being applied to the federal financial level.
What they do understand is that their dollars can't fill their grocery cart anymore.
Yes.
And it's the same problem, but it's personalized. And I think that's why Trump can win, because Joe Biden is just the economy's awful on a very personal, tangible level.
Yeah.
Well, let's jump to the story.
Let me say one more thing real quick. For everyone listening at home, you need to, when you hear politicians talking about mandatory spending, that's what they're talking about. So a lot of times they'll use phrases and terms that people aren't familiar with. When they're talking about the unfunded liabilities, when they say mandatory spending, that's the stuff they're talking about. You have to be aware of the terminology so you know what they're talking about. That is the thing that will literally kill America. You want to go and stuff your basement full of food. This is what you're actually stuffing your basement full of food because this is the biggest threat to the U.S.
Let's jump to this next story about Trump from Mediaite. Oh, this one was good. I apologize for this update. CNN's Jake Tapper reports on Michael Cohen's, we'll say this in a second, Michael Cohen's tweets during the Trump gag order hearing. The gist of the news is that Michael Cohen has been going on TikTok and social media, disparaging Donald Trump to an extreme degree and his campaign, to the point where now Donald Trump is being held, he's having another contempt hearing for gag order violations. But even CNN is saying that Trump has credibility because Michael Cohen, and earmuffs for your children, ladies and gentlemen, Michael Cohen referred to Donald Trump as Von Schitzenpants. And Jake Tapper apologized before reading it. Let me just play this quick segment for you guys.
Yeah. Generally speaking, if Mr. Trump were not running for president of the United States, this would be pretty open and shut. Who cares? You just have to take it.
Right.
But there is an argument here that Donald Trump's running for president and his First Amendment rights when it comes to responding to attacks need to be respected.
Absolutely, and this is partly why they are hammering these Michael Cohen points so aggressively, because of the fact that these are probably, of the four arguments, the strongest ones that the Trump team has. It's someone who is, in some measure, going back and forth with the former president.
Okay, I apologize for this update ahead of time.
Oh boy.
But Todd Blanche, the Trump attorney, is specifically reading a post that Michael Cohen made on Twitter on April 22nd, in which he refers to Donald Trump as Von Schitzenpants. That is just a factual record that I am bringing before you. This is in the court transcript. Von Schitzenpants. Blanche also said there are repeated attacks on Trump and his candidacy on Cohen's podcast and TikTok account. Dana Bash, I know you want to weigh in on Von Schitzenpants.
I think you did it on behalf of all of us.
Taking care of it for all record, I have been calling it Von Poops and Pants for weeks now, but now it's a part of the official transcript.
I do think that when it comes to just the raw politics of this, the argument that Donald Trump is making out in the world, not just when he comes into court and when he leaves court, but when he's on social media, when he's at his rallies, about I'm gagged, I can't speak. When you look at this, which we should say, he can speak about the judge, He can speak broadly about a lot of things. It's very narrow what the gag order is about. But it does include Michael Cohen, because Michael Cohen will be a witness. And when Michael Cohen makes very clearly political statements against Donald Trump, it gives Donald Trump a much more credible political argument saying, this is ridiculous that I can't speak. Blanche just showed articles quoting Cohen, quote, talking extensively about Trump's presidential campaign.
When CNN is forced to defend Donald Trump, it's not looking good for these Democrats in this court case.
Yeah, it's interesting because they start off by being like, well, none of this would matter if he wasn't running for president. And you're like, well, the whole reason he's on trial is because he's running for president.
Exactly.
The audacity of this man. The judge in this case did say when he issued the fine the other day, I'm trying to remember the exact terminology, but effectively the gag order is not supposed to be a sword and shield for Trump's detractors, right? Like, he acknowledged that this was being used as an opportunity, I think both by Stormy Daniels and definitely by Cohen, to throw punches at Trump when Trump is restricted on how he's allowed to publicly defend himself. And again, I find this to be a really interesting case, sort of in a nuanced way, because some of it is, he's retweeting posts. So is that actually commenting on it? Other ones he's, or whatever the truth, he's trumpeting. He's quote trumpeting these things and so he's alter them. That's lame. And so the context of which we're having to examine a gag order with the nuances of social media is fascinating. But again, this is not a great look for anyone who is anti-Trump when you're like, this guy is actually making us all look like idiots. Shout out to Michael Cohen.
I have nothing to add. Like, it's all just garbage. Like, Michael Cohen talking smack about Donald Trump has been the same thing forever. The fact that there's a gag order on Trump is ridiculous. This is all just a political hit job. It's just, the whole thing is just garbage.
I want to see, should gag orders be applied to retweets? Litigated all the way to Supreme Court. I think this is fascinating.
It's all election interference, and the fact that we have to entertain this, and we have to entertain this process. Like, it is clearly, and I don't want the federal government to step in or anything like that, but it is really frustrating that there is no authority. You can be like, look, someone has to come in and be adults, because it's clearly not. Clearly they're not behaving like adults. They're not behaving like actually impartial, impartial juries and stuff. It's frustrating.
It all feels very Venezuela to me. I haven't followed this as closely as you guys have, because I just dismiss it as that. This is just the politicization of the judicial process. But I have a theory. Like, some people believe that Trump lost the re-election because of mean tweets. So could this gag order actually guarantee a landslide?
I don't think Trump lost because of mean tweets. I think it's because Republicans were sitting around being like, gee gosh, Willikers, I think we're going to win this year debate. And then the other Republican was like, if we keep telling the American people how good we are, then we're going to win the debate. And Democrats were sitting there going, can we just get people to put their names on a piece of paper? How many of those can we get? Republicans seem to think, and they thought the whole time, I was making the argument too. We all thought that Trump making the argument to the public was going to win him an election. Wow, the economy is doing really well. Gas prices are way down. Donald Trump's coming out here and he's talking about his plans. Makes a lot of sense. I said his second term agenda looks great. I'm going to vote for him. And Democrats were going, oh, we don't even need a candidate. Biden can just sleep all day. All we got to do is get a bunch of people to put their names on this paper, and then we have more paper than he has, and then we win. And then they win, and Trump loses. So if they don't get on board with the real game, which elections are about, they're about getting as many pieces of paper as you can that someone can run through a machine. That's it. Nothing else matters. Mm-hmm. But can I give a shout out to this other article? Cassandra posted this one, sent this to us. Trump denies sleeping during trial. I simply close my beautiful blue eyes.
There is just no one like him. It's so funny. And I was definitely one of those people that was like, well, he's not classically presidential. He's a little gruff, whatever it is. But like, these lines are hilarious because so I make a point to try and listen to like MSNBC and all the mainstream media every day because I'm trying to lower my IQ. No, I'm just kidding. Because I want to know what they're saying. And this idea that Trump is falling asleep in trial is like their big, like the big thing they're sticking to right now.
Really?
Never mind the fact that they're also admitting the jury is falling asleep, especially when the banker was testifying the other day. Like, it's not fun to be in court and sitting and listening to boring stuff. But they are constantly like, they'll be like, and now joining us is this guy who's been in the court all day, and he'll be like, yes. Well, I can only see the back of Trump's head, and he doesn't appear to be sleeping, but I've heard that he is sleeping. Like, it's so ridiculous, and that tells you, in between these comments on Trump, they're also admitting like the prosecutors were not able to get Cohen or anyone to officially confirm that Trump was the person directing the money. It always stops with Cohen, and then they're sort of like. People thought maybe Trump.
What was the latest quote? It was like someone testified that Trump was asked about the payment, and he says, "What payment?"
Yeah, this is like regularly
It's like,
what
I don't know what
happens.
you're talking about.
They're able to build a case that it links to Cohen, but they are not. From everything I can see, they cannot definitively link Trump to any of this. And every time they'll be like, "Well, Pecker's the big deal. Well, actually, this next guy's the big deal. Actually, the key witness is this person." And every time someone comes to testify so far, no one has been able to do the thing the prosecution desperately needs to do, which is to link Trump to these payments.
They can't.
So
Maybe
meanwhile,
they
they're
will.
like, so he's falling asleep.
Well, I love this because like the way the media reports is like what you were saying. They'll be like, here we have John Smith, who was in the courtroom during the trial. What happened? And he goes, well, I was sitting in the back and I could only see the back of Trump's head. But after talking with someone who's familiar with how Trump thinks, it was obvious that Donald Trump during this trial was imagining strangling the bailiff. and then they go, oh, wow. Oh, Trump's so violent.
I got a news alert the other day. I think it was Wall Street Journal that was like, he's cold. There's no Diet Coke. Trump is miserable in courtroom. And you're like, I think he's actually been through a court way more times than you're giving him credit for. Like, yeah, maybe he's saying it's cold there. Maybe it's just unpleasant and not fun. And if you're grasping at straws like this, I'm sorry, your case is falling apart.
I don't know why Trump, Trump truthed. Contrary to the fake news media, I don't fall asleep during the crooked DA's witch hunt, especially not today. I simply close my beautiful blue eyes sometimes, listen intensely, and take it all in. I also don't if it were me, I'd be like, oh yeah, I was sleeping.
See, I like it better that he's just like,
who cares? Like, I don't know why does it matter?
I like it better that he's just seriously meditating on the things that everyone is trying to tell him.
Didn't he say he was praying before?
He said all kinds of stuff. The thing is, also Joe Biden falls asleep at all kinds of stuff. Like, people fall asleep when sitting. I'm not that worried about it. It is funny to me that Trump is like, my beautiful blue eyes, because he knows the media is going to be like, oh, he's such a narcissist. He called his eyes beautiful.
There's nobody like him.
No, there's not.
His Bill Barr zinger is historic. Remember that one when he said, I called Bill Barr
Like 18 days.
overweight, slow, lazy, and lethargic or something. And now, thanks to his, I accept his wholehearted endorsement. And for this, I will be removing lethargic from my statement.
He's too good. Have you played your rock opera version of that line?
We struggled to make one that was good enough.
No, there was one that I thought was so funny. We were using AI. Sorry for context. Tim was using AI
you're right.
to
we
make
never did. I gave that one to Seamus. I think Seamus is working on a cartoon called "The Corrupt Criminal Case of Donald J. Trump," using the rock opera we made about Trump's truths.
Yeah.
This one we got to turn into a rock opera song.
I mean, I think that also endears him. Like, if he lost for mean tweets, which I don't think he did, I think he really wins with people by giving off these like nonplussed answers. I was simply closing my beautiful blue eyes.
Let's do this. Let's jump to a completely just off-cycle story that's really interesting, and I had talked about it earlier in the day. A lot of people wanted to talk more about it. This is from the Daily Mail, how Baton Rouge school, plagued by racial tensions and violence, drove military veteran to spearhead successful campaign for wealthy white residents to form new city of St. George. The first thing I'd like to do is insult the person who wrote that headline, because it's overly verbose and doesn't really explain what the story is. The story's massive. Baton Rouge is effectively splitting into two cities over crime, with the wealthier suburb, which is predominantly white, St. George, becoming its own city. And this was as of a couple of days ago. The interesting thing is that there are many people arguing that by having this wealthy suburb break off, which is predominantly white, 70%, it is going to harm and leave behind black families. I am shocked that they would argue that make that racist argument. Black families in Baton Rouge don't need the white people to be there in order to succeed. I don't know why they would make that argument. But of course, they're claiming it's racist now that the people who live in this community voted for their own city. So what say you, panel?
Matt, how do you feel about this?
It's not racist. It's rational.
Is it based, in fact?
It's very based, and there's a movement. I don't know about Louisiana, but in Texas, there's a movement to create new free cities that split off from places like Austin. And it's simply about taxes. It's about regulations. It's about zoning. It's about schools. It's about all the things that normal people care about. And my guess is that the Baton Rouge city government is slightly better than Portland, Oregon, but maybe not good enough if you're paying the taxes. So why wouldn't you vote with your feet? And why wouldn't you start a community that is actually going to care about basics? Like, I want my trash picked up. I would love for my kids not to be transitioned in middle school, and I would love not to get shot.
Yeah. Baton Rouge is where there was a big BLM riot, and the case is still going on, where the police officer then sued the organizer for being like, you created a dangerous situation.
Wow.
There was a similar effort in Atlanta to create, I think it's called Buckhead. And as far as I know, it's been voted on a couple times. It's never gone through. But again, there was this criticism that it's like all the wealthy white residents want to split off. I think that's an oversimplification to scare people against the concept, right? If you're living in an area and you guys are doing pretty well, regardless of race, and you think, hey, this city is being mismanaged, I don't want to sell my house. My house is in the good part. Why don't we split off? That makes sense for me. I think that it's sort of arrogant of cities that are being poorly managed to say, well, like, you guys have to go down with our ship. You're not allowed to leave. Otherwise, we'll label you racist.
It's not race. It's governance. It's failure of governance. It's a failure to do the basic things that you expect a city government to do.
Yeah, I think so for sure.
I mean, the thing is, you can't, if they are wealthy people, you can't make them stay, right? Like, even if this failed and they were like, well, you can't. Well, all those people can be like, well, this sucks. We're leaving anyway.
Would you rather them move away, or would you rather them split off and live next door? I think the state would rather they stay in the state.
To the people of Baton Rouge, obviously, it's going to matter. But to the people that that want to leave, it doesn't matter. You cannot force people to stay. And the more the state tries to, the more it resembles, what you get when the state tries to make people stay in an area. And that has plenty of historical analogs on all kinds of, different degrees, from marginally annoying to, they're going to throw you into mass graves if you try to leave. Right. So
I wonder if we'll see more and more of this. Again, I think you're right. It's happening in Texas. Like I said, the Atlanta one is the one I'm most familiar with. But if you can keep them there by labeling them, racist, is that sort of becomes less. Why
would you want to live with racists?
Why would you want to live with racists? They don't even want to be here. Let them go. But like, as this logic falls apart, do you think we'll see this more and more in cities that are sort of struggling?
I'm sure this was happening in Baton Rouge, but as cities start to destroy their tax base, they start to expand their boundaries and encroach into suburbs that weren't part of their tax base. So part of it is just like, it's like economic warfare. Like, you're not going to do that to us. We're going to separate from you completely. If they would get their house in order, they wouldn't have this problem.
Yeah.
You've got state of Jefferson, Greater Idaho.
Yeah.
You've got a county in Colorado trying to secede from the state. This is actually happening all over the country. And when there is no solution to the people who live there, when they're demanding these things, they don't get it, they move. And now we're seeing geographic hyperpolarization, which is really bad.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what's going to happen now here in Baton Rouge, St. George? People who can afford to will move into the wealthy, safe, and secure area of St. George. And the poor people will stay behind, and Baton Rouge will start to fall apart.
And 90% of this is, the two issues, if I understand correctly, the two issues are the schools and also the crime. Mm-hmm. So there's violence at schools. Mm-hmm. It really is like, if you have an unsafe area where there is no law, where the law enforcement does not take care of the population, the people with means leave that area. That's just the way it is. If you can get out of it, if it's dangerous, and it's whether it's the same as whether it's people that are leaving a town because they don't like the school, or refugees from a war-torn country. This is what happens when people are unsafe and they can leave. They get the hell out of Dodge. Mm-hmm. So this is not some kind of shock, and you're only going to see it. The actual solution is to get competent governance.
Yeah, you can't really hold order-minded people hostage by saying you have to stay here where there's chaos. They're not going to do it. They're going to follow their principles and their values, and they want structure, order, and safety. I
wonder if there's actually any kind of solution to the issue of self-segregation, because what I see from this is, if you don't allow a city like St. George, as we're all mentioning, people move, right? Yeah, well, these wealthy white people are going to go move into wealthy white neighborhoods. They're not going to decide to go move into like central Chicago. None of these wealthy families are going to be like, I know, 45th and the Red Line sounds good. They're not going to do it. They're not going to want to go there. So all that's going to keep happening is more and more self-segregation. But the thing is, I learned this growing up in Chicago. All of the races self-segregate by choice. No one forced them to do it. In the early days, there was something called redlining, which is where the real estate companies would intentionally push black families towards red line housing. They're like, we want to make them all go there because it's a racist housing market. They're concerned about the property values if black families move into white areas or close to them. So they wanted to control it. That gets made illegal. Guess what happens? Nothing changes. The Hispanic people start moving near Hispanic people. The white people move near white people. And the black people move to live in black communities. Now you've got St. George, but if they were forced to leave, none of those people are going to move to a Mexican neighborhood or a Honduran neighborhood. None of them are going to move to a black neighborhood. I mean, very rarely. Some may, but for the most part, they don't do it. People just segregate based on race. Mm-hmm. That I don't know what the proposed leftist solution to that is when people choose to do it.
Well, sometimes leftists propose segregating based on race. I can't remember which school, but there was a college recently where the student, the African American student community was saying, "Well, we want our own dorm. We don't want to have to live with anyone else." Yeah. So is that racist, or are we cool with that one?
No,
what are we doing here, team?
The left likes it.
Yeah,
when they call for it, it's okay. But if you were to be like, "Hey, I'm not saying it's a race thing, but I don't want to live in a place where I'm scared to send my kid to school because they're going to get beat up and there's all kind of stuff," then you're racist.
To be fair, the left has no real morals and no real ideology. The best example being Lance from the Surfs on this show arguing that if a man is attracted to a manly woman, he's gay, but then tweeting out that men being attracted to manly women is straight, because it's literally flavor of the month for these people. They have no ideas behind anything they're saying.
For people that are making the argument that you were referring to, it's just a vector of attack. So that's why Jordan Peterson was referred to it as postmodern, because it doesn't actually matter to them. It's just that this is an attack that will convince people watching, and it's a vector of attack that will work. And so they don't really believe it. Like Tim says, it's not like they have any belief in it. What they actually believe is that words have power, and that's the postmodern thing. So they use race as an effective tool. It's nothing more than an effective tool. That's why it's conditional, and it's different depending on who's using it and stuff like that, because it's all that postmodern garbage.
It's also like this is a microcosm of our two different philosophies, if I'm grossly generalizing. One is centralization of power and one size fits all, and we're going to run the city the way that the ruling party believes in. And I think our side believes in localism. Like if everybody in the Mexican-American community wants to self-gather in that community, I think that's great. But maybe they want to mix it up. Like, how do we know what a robust culture looks like unless we let people to be free enough to decide for themselves? What do they value most? Do they value being with people that look and sound like them? Or do they value diversity? Or do they just value a reasonable tax code that doesn't totally screw you?
Right. And I think we talk about this a lot, but I think one of the biggest challenges facing America right now is that we don't have a collective understanding of what our values are and what our culture is supposed to be. And so that's why I love regional culture in America. I think it's really interesting that in Louisiana there's a big Cajun influence. It's just different language, and I would want to preserve those things. But overarching, do we understand what it means to be American as opposed to these regional enclaves? Or, if you're living within an immigrant community that's settled in a specific area, would you be able to both have your, ethnic culture and as well as be able to say but being American means this. These are the values that we all agree we want to preserve.
Well, we did have a system that allowed for individuality and local culture and a common sense of American identity. I think going back to centralization, intersectionality is a central plan, and it ranks everybody based on somebody's preferences. And it is so fundamentally un-American that it pushes us away from each other. It creates all of these divisions and this distrust amongst different types of Americans. And I think that's what's tearing us apart.
Yeah. I think intersectionality, this was the big buzzword I remember when I was going through college, how great is intersectionality? And as you're describing it, I'm like, this sounds awful. This sounds terrible. But it is, again, this idea that, we could have a moral and cultural understanding of what order should look like, but there's the opposite side which says, no, we want to be able to change, to continuously rotate the deck as we see fit, and we don't want you to be able to complain about it without being labeled with an ism, so to speak.
Yes.
Thank you so much for agreeing with me.
Affirmation for Hannah Claire.
Thank you. I need that because I'm female and also I'm a middle child, so it's really important to my ego.
Middle child will do that, yeah.
Are you a middle child?
No.
Do you think birth order does make a difference in personality? I'm sorry, this is off topic, but
I don't know about in personality, but in the way that you're raised. If I was the first child, there would have been no second child.
Is there a Bill Labonte?
No, I have a sister. It's Catherine, and she's just about 2 years older than me. And
it would have been better if her name was Jill.
Yes, maybe.
You'd have weird parents.
That would, yeah. I mean, I have a story that I'll tell you off the air about weird names. But anyways.
Yeah, I don't know. I expect more of this to happen. Leftist ideology and democratic policy is destroying cities. Portland's an example of it. I wouldn't be surprised if a suburb of Portland or something, they start passing laws because they're concerned about what's going on. I think we're already seeing people fleeing, and it's all racist. If you leave, it's racist. If you make your own city and your own laws, it's racist. It's just, you're a racist.
You're right. It is only going to continue. And a big part of the reason is because of the narrative that people are fed. And I was harping on this the other day. But the reason that we had all the mess of the Summer of Love and the George Floyd riots was because of the lie fed to the American people for the better part of a decade that the police were killing thousands of black men, innocent unarmed black men. The idea was that the police are killing thousands of innocent unarmed black men every year in America. And that's what people bought. And because of that lie, we had thousands of lives destroyed, tons of chaos for a whole summer. And with this, you have this lie that rich people don't pay their fair share and they don't pay any taxes and they all get out of it and blah, 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 blah. And the reason your life is bad is because of the rich people. And the reason that you don't have this is because of rich people that don't pay their fair share. When the truth is, rich people pay all the taxes. The bottom half of the 50% of the country don't pay any taxes. And the people that are freaking out about, that are protesting protesting capitalism and stuff, they're not paying any tax at all, and they never have. And these kinds of narratives that are not true but permeate through society have real world effects on the way that people behave. And when there's people that talk about the inequality that we have, and you don't have a problem with poverty per se, but you have a problem with perceived inequality, right? If your whole society's poor, poor doesn't matter. But when you've got really rich people and then some poor people, it sucks. But the whole society overall is really generally wealthy, and we don't have people falling out of society. And the narrative that we have this terrible society that where people are constantly falling through the cracks and kills people and blah blah blah, that is not true, and it's a lie that's permeated a lot of Gen Z and young people. And that's part of the reason why you have these protests, is because they generally believe the U.S. and our society is bad, and it's just not.
We're going to go to Super Chats. So if you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends, and head over to timcast.com. Click Join Us to become a member if you want to come hang out for the uncensored call-in show where our members will call in and talk to us and ask questions of us and our guests. You can smash the like button, as I mentioned. Follow the show at Timcast on Instagram and X, as well as rumble.com/Timcast IRL. Those are important because YouTube is giving us the business. But let's read. We got Token Black Guy who says, howdy, people. He's taken over from Clint. Clint is gone. Well, he's now the first super chatter. Oh, here's a good one. The second super chat is Tim is controlled opposition, saying, if Biden turns on Israel, he's got my vote. What a perfect example of what I describe as Israel derangement syndrome. Let me elaborate. An individual who calls me controlled opposition, who is willing to vote for Joe Biden so long as he turns on Israel. A man who is enforcing DEI policies at the federal level. A man who just invoked new Title IX rules that eliminate protections for women and allow males to compete against females, among other things, providing protections for women who make claims and accusations against men. A guy whose brother gained a bunch of lucrative contracts, seemingly in line with the position he had as the vice president. A man whose son was an executive on the board who did drugs and who was cutting out 10% for the big guy. You'd be willing to support one of the most corrupt individuals in U.S. history who is pushing communist garbage in this country so long as he says Israel bad. That, my friends, is exactly Israel derangement syndrome. Shall we read on? CEO of Fat Girl says, howdy, people. Clint said, howdy, people. Clint, she won't stop texting me, man. Get her under control. I am the milkman. My milk is delicious. Okay. Well, I have no idea what that's about, but...
Have you guys been seeing the stuff about avian flu being found in all kinds of milk across the country?
Oh, here we go. It's going to be like October, and the October surprise is going to be airborne Ebola or something.
Yeah, everyone gets to stay
Also,
home.
I feel like it's conservatives who drink milk, you know? Like, only lefties drink non-milk.
Yeah, but conservatives drink, like, milk from a cow.
That's what it's being found in. Like, they're like...
No, I mean, like, people are going to stores
Oh,
and
yeah,
buying...
like local milk as opposed to, like, the grocery chain.
No, but everybody drinks milk because milk's in everything. It's just, it's not even about buying a thing of whole milk. It's that your baked goods, your other derivative drinks, your milkshakes, your ice cream. Mm-hmm. Liberals like ice cream too. Conservatives like ice cream. Everybody eats ice cream.
There's a bunch of food recalls right now. This is occasionally something I follow for Scanner just because it's fascinating to me. Because we all know the food that we eat is bad, but also can be so easily like messed up for non-nefarious reasons. Just like, man, it's a delicate shade.
All right, Kale says, love to hear Cast Brew will have canned cold brew in the future. I've been making cold brew with Appalachian Nights at Chronic Golf Plus Games on Hilton Head. It's the best thing about opening shifts. Yeah, it was one of the first things we looked into was doing cans of cold brew, but unless we order massive amounts, which is beyond our warehouse capacity and shipping capacity, we're not able to do it. So the challenge is you need to produce a certain amount of cans to get the cost low enough, but you need a certain amount of distribution to be able to produce enough because I think cold brew lasts for 1 year. And you don't want to have them sitting around in a warehouse. Then you got liquid shipping. So it's actually fairly challenging. With our coffee, we roast in small batches. So when you buy a bag of Cast Brew, you're getting something that was freshly roasted recently in a small batch. And we have a bunch of empty bags. And then when people order, we cycle through like roasting a batch and then sending them out and then roasting a batch. Making cold brew requires making the cans, canning them, printing and everything. If we only do small batch cans, they're like $5 a piece. We have to sell each can for like $5. And like selling like a $30 six pack of that's pretty brutal. But I mean, if you look at Starbucks cold brew, it is expensive to do canned cold brew, even when you're at mass scale, you know?
When you have to clarify this for me. Some companies sell like the setup to do your own cold brew at home, like just I think of as a tea bag. That would be easier to do than the canned? Is there a
the
reason
idea
you do
is
one
like
versus
we
the
want to
other?
get to the point where you walk into a gas station and you grab a can of Cast Brew from the shelf, scan the UPC, and then crack it open and drink it.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Appalachian Nights cold brew canned at the store, that would be a dream come true. Mm-hmm. That'd be great. I'd have a whole bunch, buy some, go to the skate park. And then it gets real tough when you want to do like the kind that has cream already in it. Mm-hmm. Now you're getting complicated. Perishables and dairy and oh boy.
Particularly if it has Ebola.
Yeah, the
swim
Rhino
around in
green.
there.
Avian flu or something.
Do you pay extra for the avian flavoring?
Yeah,
actually
because you have
you
to
get a
make sure
discount.
that it gets to this thing's still active.
Let's go. Travis Delaney says, as an OG Kibbe fan, I demand he bring back his infamous sideburns. Tim, pull up a picture to remind everyone of what they're missing. Is there, if I search for Matt Kibbe sideburns?
Okay, I have
will
a sideburn issue. So when I was running Freedom Works and I was on TV all the time representing the Tea Party, I had these sideburns because I just shaved off all the gray, and all of that was left was these awesome sideburns. And then Keith Olbermann.
is that
There it
you?
Yeah, that's me. And
What
then,
a look, man.
and then Keith Olbermann attacked them.
What a
And I said,
dick.
well, shit, I got to keep these forever now.
As a
so-
defiance move.
Yeah.
Did you have the sleeve of tattoos in this photo too? Or like, how has your aesthetic
I had
evolved?
some. I continue to add to the collection.
That's so funny.
All right. Token Black Eye says, Tim, regarding your earlier segment on Baton Rouge and the new city of St. George, I've lived in Baton Rouge most of my life, and unfortunately, the crime has become out of hand. Much like Portland or San Francisco, like many of these cities. So don't be surprised if more stuff like this happens.
crime drives poverty.
What if you don't, we were always saying like move out of cities, but what if it's not move out of cities? It's just move to the best neighborhood and separate?
Just get better police. Like if you have a good police force that actually takes care of not only, it takes more than just police because you have to have a DA that'll put people in jail.
And a government that's like accurately, this is what I said about Portland, right? They cannot recruit police. They have a budget, they're failing.
I got to push back. I think you need good neighbors is what you need. You need neighbors that share the values of don't hurt people, don't take their stuff. Because police cannot substitute for a bunch of neighbors that want to hurt you and take your stuff.
I agree with that. I do agree with that.
Ryan Ain't Lion says, huge shout out to my amazing wife, Caitlin, for giving us the best 15th anniversary gift of our second son.
Hey, congratulations.
Little Tucker Finley. I guess we are even more far right now. Well, congratulations on moving further right by having children.
You named your
You're
kid
probably
Tucker
all-
Finn? That's super far right, man.
All right. Jason
I
Dixon
love when
says,
people call in or like chat in and tell us that they have kids. So exciting.
Jason Dixon says, Tim, can I get a shout out for all these cops you all of a sudden like and are okay with them being gay and doing crimes? Shout out to the Discord too. I think, Jason, I think you're missing the point of what I'm saying. I'm implying that shutting down the protests is wrong, but I don't actually care because the people are begging for it. I am not actually praising the police for going in and shutting down the protests. It is sort of I'll put it this way. When there was a video of a Jewish student being denied entry and the cops would not help him, I am upset the police were not doing anything about it. When the police were called upon and witnessed these people attacking Jewish students, this is what precipitated the violence at UCLA. The police did nothing. When the clashes started, the police came in and broke up the clash and then did nothing. And then finally, the police were called in to get rid of these protest camps. I am saying that sometimes the police are good, some departments are good. Big city departments typically are bad because they're run for political interests by politically appointed individuals, and sheriff departments are typically better because they're elected. But in this instance, my statement about the police is not necessarily a positive one. I wouldn't necessarily call it a negative one. I am saying the far left wants to live by the sword, and now they shall. So when the police come in and give them the governance they asked for, I will laugh about it. But I would defend someone's right to free speech were they not violent communists who physically attack people. If Nick Fuentes showed up at one of these campuses with a megaphone, took no land, claimed no territory, and just stood there bullhorning, I'd say he's allowed to do it. I mean, if you want to make an argument about the audible nature of a megaphone and he's set it to a certain volume, so be it. I don't care if you're a communist, a Muslim, an anti-Semite or whatever, you have a right to free speech, but only, in my opinion, if you agree with the right for other people to have free speech back. Meaning if you, exactly what Elon Musk said. Fuentes is allowed on X, and he should be, and other people can comment on his posts, and they can argue with him online, and they can community note him when he's wrong. And that's what we need. But these violent communists in these universities bar people entry and physically attack them. Funny video I saw. I think it was Crowder that reposted it. It's a guy who made a channel called Totally Tourist. Have you guys seen the video? Mm-mm. He's wearing a Hawaiian shirt and like a hat. I don't know what the hat's called, but it's like, it's like a round hat. And he's walking around asking people in New York what's the best place to to eat in New York. He's a travel vlogger called Totally Tourist. He's a tourist here, and he wants to find the best food. And he goes to the protest, and he's like, hey, I'm wondering if you can give me some advice on a good place to eat. And they go, no press. And he's like, I'm not press. I'm a travel vlogger. I'm just trying to find good food. And they're like, press is over there. And then one guy walks up and goes, what do you think about Palestine? And he's like, I don't know anything about it. I think what you guys are doing is great. And then the guy starts getting in his face. Yeah. And he's like, I don't know. He's like, hey, man, back off. Don't touch my stuff. He's like, I don't know. I think you're doing good. Whatever, man. And the guy insults him and walks off. And I'm like, you see, this is it. A guy's walking around in a Hawaiian shirt saying, where can I get some food? And they say, get out, no press. These people don't believe in free speech. I'm not going to defend their free speech. But, Jason, shout out to the Discord. If you guys aren't members at timcast.com, you're missing out because there are pre-shows, there's morning shows, there's after shows. It's people hanging out, networking, and winning a culture war. Let's go. Lee Whitaker says, hey, Tim, VIP on Discord here. I was fired from my $150K per year web dev job last week for not being woke. Can you recommend a good lawyer? Oh, man. I mean, sucks. America First Legal. I don't know the extent to which they take cases like this. I honestly don't know. Man, it's tough. Sorry to hear it, though, man.
That sucks, man.
That's crazy. You should go in the Discord and explain.
Yeah, I want to hear the rest of the story.
Yeah, maybe you should call in and tell the story. We'll see if we can set something up and have you talk about what happened. All right. Angry Marsupial says, we lost our 10-year-old pup, 7, suddenly today. He was the 7th of our clan, joining us a year after blending families. He was the glue we all had in common and my IRL watching buddy. Aww. This is a very lonely tribute to my boy tonight. Sorry to hear it.
That's a cute name. Like if your puppy's like the 7th person.
There was a sign not too far from here. It said mini golden doodle puppies, and the mini word just makes it a no. Yeah.
You want a big dog?
Well, it's not that. I want a dog. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like just like a regular one. These miniature ones, the way I was thinking about it, I'm like, I don't want a dog that I have to protect. I want a dog that'll protect me. You know, you get like a full-size golden doodle. You get a full-size, like full poodles are actually hunting dogs. They're super smart. They're based. And they will defend you. But like a little miniature, a bird of prey is going to snatch him up.
Yeah, I was going to say, especially if you have land, it's not, you'd have to always be with the dog when it's outside.
That's a legitimate concern, actually.
Yeah, there's going to be like a security camera footage of a bird just swooping down and snatching him and flying away.
Have you seen those jackets they make for like chihuahuas with like spikes sticking out of them to like deter birds from picking them up?
Jeez, if a bird can eat your pet, you have a rodent. That being said, there was a turtle walking around on the driveway earlier today, and Chris found him. And he was like, what do we do? And he's like holding this turtle that was probably like 15 years old because it was like decently big. And I was like, bring him to the pond, I guess. And he's like, I don't know where like, what if he was going somewhere important, Like,
he was late for a meeting.
Well, maybe he's got, like, he or she has a family or something, you know what I mean? And then it's like, he walks all the way over here to go back to where his eggs are, and we pick him up and then bring him all the way back. Imagine how brutal that would be.
This is something I've heard about. If you find, like, a bunch of kittens in the wild, like if you're walking in the woods, there's a chance that the mom has left them, hidden them, so she can go hunt or whatever, and she's going to come back. So if you move them, the mom is now unable to find her kittens, and then it's they have to be with their mom to nurse and learn how to be a cat.
This is one of the funniest ones too. Deer do this. When people will often come across like a baby deer, and they'll go, "Oh no, it's been abandoned," and then they'll take it and like do something with it, and it was like the mom comes back like, "My child is gone." Because the parent will like leave the child to go find food or something, and somewhere where the child, like the baby deer, is safe.
Right. The people are like well intentioned, but actually kidnapping things that are okay.
You ever see the video of the guy throwing the tortoise into the lake? Well, he killed that thing. Yep. Yes. Turtles and tortoises, very different.
Central planners, bastards.
That's really a great example of it, right? The guy throwing a tortoise into a lake is basically these communists.
Yeah.
Being like, trust me to run your government. I love that meme where it's like a picture of a big fat guy who's like, I've never had a real job. I live with my parents. I've not actually read any news, and I don't know anything about modern philosophies or industry. Now,
and I have all kinds of mental illness, and I'm on all these drugs.
Yes, that too. And now here's how I would fix the government.
Yeah. I feel like you're describing a U.S. senator right now.
Probably.
From Pennsylvania, maybe.
Let's go. Let's grab some more super chats. Cody Justin Fannin says, what I can't get past is that Trump didn't do anything in 2020 with the riots raging. I still plan to vote for him. but it's in absence of a better candidate. I wonder if he'll do anything when he wins. I agree. You know, I think Trump has issues on foreign policy, but he did well, in my opinion. Trump had hiring issues and did things poorly in a lot of ways. But like, what are you going to do? You know, vote for Joe Biden? No, I still think. And look, this may be sad to say, but Trump is the greatest president of my lifetime. That's it. I've lived through technically H.W. Bush, Clinton, W. Bush, Obama, and now Trump. And all of them gave us war, conflict, and crisis. And then Trump was slightly reversing that. So what can I say? He's better than the rest. Certainly far from perfect, but I don't know what you're going to get with your president.
I just could never vote for Joe Biden. That's a non-starter for me.
What if he came out against Israel? Would you then sacrifice literally all of the important things for this country and let communists take over the United States? That's just so insane.
It's wild. The thing is, Joe Biden is just not good. He's just actually bad. You can debate all the other stuff like that. Like, I want a president that doesn't trip up the stairs. If we're going to go into international conflict, I want someone who seems, I don't know, not fragile.
Let's see. The text vet says CS gas is what the military uses. If you've seen the videos of the gas chamber from basic training, that's what it is. CS gas is far worse than tear gas. Well, what I can tell you is that in Ferguson, the canister said CS smoke on them. So maybe smoke is a specific term, different from gas, where it's got a lower concentration. What I can tell you is, in Brazil, they do not F around. I have been tear gassed quite a bit in the United States. I was tear gassed in Turkey. And let me tell you, tear gas in the United States is barely tear gas. It's an irritant. It's in the air. You don't like it. It hurts your eyes. Yeah, whatever. In Turkey, I'm impressed. This stuff is pretty intense, but it's okay. You can manage through it. Brazil was legit. Okay, so if I get tear gassed in the United States, typically New York does not use tear gas, and my understanding is the way their sewer system is designed, they try to avoid using it almost entirely because it gets retained or something. It'll be bad for everybody else. So they don't use it. There are certain cities that I've been to in the U.S. Ferguson, for instance, had what was referred to as CS smoke, and it's an irritant, and you're like, oh man, that's bad, and that's about it. Your eyes will water a little bit. In Turkey, it was pretty intense, and I was like, hard to see, and I'm like coughing. I'm like, man, Brazil was such legit. It must have been like military grade or something. You had no choice. When you got hit by this, just snot poured out your nose uncontrollably, and your eyes were swollen red with tears pouring down your face, and there's nothing you can do about it. There was no manning it up and bearing it. You're just like, wow, I cannot stop the snot pouring out of my face. So I took my sock and jammed it in my mouth so I could breathe. And then someone was like, why didn't you use your hat? And I was like, my hat was covered in tear gas.
Yeah, that was
like a good question, though. But like the only part of like that I had that was small enough to actually try and use as some kind of filter was the sock in my shoe. And it helped. That was fun, by the way. You know what I mean? It's like, it's exhilarating. But I certainly don't recommend people go in situations where you have to endure stuff like that.
I mean, it sounds fun.
I mean, it's fun if you, like Luke and I were doing this interview with this guy who like worked with the Mexican government special police forces. And his like past career was like anti-cartel, super intense. But now he's like a special effects guy. He's like semi-retired. And so when we were like, let's talk, he kind of went over the top and he cracked a tear gas thing and threw it at us. And then we were in a small room with tear gas pouring out. We never used the footage, but we were like, like he was like, the idea was like how long, who could sit there the longest? And we just both got up and we were like, whoa, dude, tear gassing us in a garage.
This footage exists.
I don't think it exists anymore. This was 10 years ago.
That's too
But yeah,
bad.
Luke and I sat in chairs and he cracked it open and threw it. I didn't think he was going to do it. And then he was like, here, look. And I was like, wait, what? And then we both got tear gassed and it was funny. I think Luke got tased too. I think he zapped Luke. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Luke probably remembers better than I do.
That explains something.
Yeah.
Boys
that guy
are-
was cool though.
boys
He was
are wild.
He was like a consultant for movies and special effects because he had worked with like police forces, and it's a much safer job getting away from all that stuff. But he had to wear a mask. He had a cool mask. It was like a devil mask. He's like, I don't want the people that, you know, I locked up to know who I am. And it's like, if we're going to film something, and I was like, okay, whatever. That was cool. I was in Miami. Let's go. The mayor of Seriostown says, Tim, I know how badly you want to sell more coffee than Appalachian Nights, A strong product pipeline is important, so I doubled my Appalachian Night subscription and will do so every month until there's a Houston location. So let's see. If you were doing 1, now you're doing 2. Next month you'll do 4. In 3 months you'll have 8. In 4 months you'll have 16. In 5 months you'll have 32. So let's see. In 6 months you'll have 64. I think you're just going to be our best customer.
I was going to say, I think you just are the Houston location then. I think you
exactly.
are the outpost of...
Yeah, just give us the address. We'll send people to go buy Appalachian Nights because I don't think you can drink all that coffee.
All right, I'm a coffee snob, so I'm making an order right now, and I'll send notes.
So
Wait,
it is...
that'd be so fun.
Appalachian Nights. So when we first launched Rise with Roberto Jr., it's a light roast breakfast blend, and we put the roaster on it because we were like, this is it. People, we were talking to people and they're like, oh, they like light roast is kind of the thing everybody drinks. Dark roast is getting popular, but light roast. And then we tried it and we basically blended different things together for all these different blends that we were making. And we were like, okay, this one's good. We'll launch this one with our rooster as our mascot as like our official go-to. And when we first launched, that one was the one we were like, get Rise with Roberto Jr. It's got the rooster on it. And then we have our dark roast too, which is Appalachian Nights. And then it flipped. Without even, like, all of a sudden, we noticed our sales were like triple, double, quadruple. People just keep reordering, choosing Appalachian Nights over everything else. And I was like, oh, we got a good one. So it's cool. It's like we got one. We got one that was good.
So start there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Hollywood Catios says, I race a 60-mile-an-hour riding lawnmower. What? No money needed, but would love to wrap my new 100-mile-an-hour riding mower with your graphic to spread the word to the fair crowds we race in front of. How do I get official approval? SoCalMowerRacing.net.
Okay, I'm immediately Googling that.
There's a really simple answer. We used to just say like DM Ian or whatever, but he's not here. I would say if you're a member in the Discord, send a message to one of the staff in the Discord. I would love to put a Timcast wrap on your riding mower. That sounds awesome.
I cannot even believe this is a real thing. I love America. This is great.
You ever see the log pulling things they do, like the tractor pulls or whatever?
Yeah. Well, I grew up in rural Connecticut, and they had they'll do the logs, or they'll have oxen pull stuff. If someone wraps their oxen that's pulling at their county fair in a Timcast thing, I would die. It'd be so funny.
It's going to be wild once we get. So while we're building the Cast Brew shop in Martinsburg, the work behind the scenes for more locations around the country is currently underway. So that's still in full swing. And that's basically all of the, whenever you buy Cast Brew, we're not pulling profits or pulling any money out of that. I don't take a salary from the company or anything. I think we only have one employee. And the funding is going towards setting up the location and setting up the other locations. It is going to be absolutely based when we're able to go hey, there's a franchise location in, Dubuque, Iowa, and we've got space there to do the show, and we're going to go do the show there, and we're going to be able to just pop around and do this tour or something to the effect, like a mini tour. So that's really cool. Someone super chatted saying they want to open one in Houston. I'm like, imagine if we open this and then we're able to go and actually do the show live from that location. It'd be absolutely amazing. Super cool stuff. Coming in the future. Polly Puree says, Ian, crying emoji, crying emoji, crying emoji, crying emoji. Ian will be back, I think, next week. He got lost. We wanted to test his perspicacity, so we didn't give him the address. And he's out there somewhere, probably in the woods, but he'll figure it out. We believe in him. All right, where are we at? Kenneth Hart says, I'm a commercial driver in PDX and spent 3 hours in traffic. Trust me, there are plenty of cars. The rich guys in the West Hills bought all downtown. Boom, drugs criminalization. The city is a blight, and it has to be hard rebooted. Well, good luck, sir.
Hard reboot sounds very terrifying, even if it is necessary.
Have you tried unplugging it and plugging it back in? I love that meme. You ever see the meme where it's V from V for Vendetta wearing the headset? And it's like, your government is doing what? Have you tried unplugging it and plugging it back in? Yep.
I wish it would work.
Yeah. I got to be honest, though. I would not plug it back in. We'll figure it out. Thanks. Have a nice day. Sometimes you get a computer that's just not working. You just don't. You just unplug it and you're like, you go get a new one. You get a new one.
We just leave. We cordon off Portland. Let it be there for 50 years. Come back later when it's overgrown.
Or build a wall around it.
Well, you know those pictures of old houses in Detroit where you'll walk in and there's actually a tree growing through it? Like, it's sort of being rebooted in a sense.
I love this meme. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, this one was, this is a classic one. Here, look at this fake tweet. Donald J. Trump, I'm building a wall around New Mexico too. I don't eat any new Mexicans. I'm still trying to get rid of the old ones. I wonder who made that up. That was a good one. New Mexicans. Yep. That was a funny one. We'll grab some more super chats. We can get a couple more in here. What do we have? Jazzonaut says 20-year-olds have parents born in the 70s. That's Gen X. Correct. And 20-year-olds are Gen Z. Millennials are nearing 40 years old. So millennials, and so it comes and goes in waves. There are the bulk of boomers, and the majority of the children of boomers are millennials, but there are boomers who have Gen Z kids, and there are Gen Xers who have millennial kids as well. Typically, however, Gen Xers have Gen Z kids, and boomers have millennial kids. So I think boomers are fantastic, actually. I think poor old Gen X, they're kind of a lost generation, but not in a bad way. Just that they did, some good stuff. It's whatever. Phil's Gen X. He's got some good stuff going on, but for the most part, people are just like, you didn't really rock the boat all that much. You did some good stuff. I think Smashing Pumpkins are Gen X. We like them. I don't know. Are there like, yeah, Gen X did some pretty good stuff, but it's like,
all the grunge music was all Gen X stuff, So.
Yeah, Creed, were they Gen X?
Yeah.
Boomers gave us Star Trek: The Next Generation, and for that, they shall be given a golden trophy for all of time and be heralded as the greatest generation in the history of mankind. But there are many boomers who are bad, and they get to be called out. But you've redeemed yourselves because no matter who you are, where you are, boomer, just know it was a boomer who made Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Good for you.
It was a bunch of them, actually. And that is the best show ever made, period.
It's inspiring.
Yeah. All right, here we go. Trident54, he got the reference. Bad religion. I don't know how to live, but I got a lot of toys. My daddy's a lazy middle-class intellectual. My mummy's on Valium, so ineffectual. Ain't life a mystery. 21st century digital boy.
That's it.
Yep. That says it. They nailed it. That was a long time ago, right? When did they write that? Like 2000 or something?
Yeah.
21st century digital boy.
If it wasn't the 90s, it was the early 2000s.
My daddy's a lazy middle-class intellectual. Mummy's on Valium, so ineffectual. Yep. Shannon says, Tim, Gen Z men are conservative, but Gen Z women are queer and more likely to be trans. This is true. But as I've mentioned before, men don't have the same pressures as women. There's apparently like Halle Berry has a video where she's screaming, I'm going through menopause. Did you see that?
Yeah, because she was on Congress at the Hill today lobbying for more menopause research.
Yeah, like men don't have this. And so conservative guys, these Gen Z guys are going to be in their 30s and they're going to be, dating or whatever. And they're going to meet a woman and she's going to be like, well, I'm progressive. And he's going to go, okay, have a nice day. And he's going to get up and she's going to be like, no, wait, why? And he's going to be like, I'm not dating a progressive leftist. The guy is not going to have any pressure to have a family. Whereas these women who are in their 30s are literally being told by their doctors, like, well, if you want to have a family, you better do it now.
No, I think doctors let them too. Doctors and celebrities are like, well, we'll see. If you spend money with me freezing your eggs, we can pretend this isn't real.
Yeah, but that's also the point. The doctor's going to say, well, if you want to have a kid naturally, you better do it now. We can freeze your eggs. Mm-hmm. And I just think even if it's 1%, 2%, 3% of women, many of them are going to be shifting their political views because they're going to realize that it's rough for them. And
I would love to see data on political engagement based on gender. I know we know that young people tend to look at politics as a social cause, and so there's a certain level of like they're doing it to be viewed as valuable by their peers. But I almost wonder if women are more likely to be less politically engaged than men. We know that viewership for political shows skews towards men, and so like of the like woke feminists, queer whatever women that Gen Z has, like how many of them are actually dedicated to the cause and how much are like, yeah, I guess, right, and are actually much more almost independent in a way.
All right, so final thought. Someone chatted, Alex Jones is Gen X. Okay, well, Gen X, you got that one. I'll give you that one. If you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends, and head over to timcast.com, click join us, because the members-only call-in show will be starting in a few minutes where you, as members, will talk to us and our guests. It's a whole lot of fun. It's not so family-friendly, but you got to be there. And mostly, we need your support as members. It's how we fund the show. It's how everything is possible. Tomorrow, I'm flying out to Mar-a-Lago. We'll see how that goes.
Are you going to come back orange?
Maybe. And so this is going to be fun. It'll be my first time there. And then we're working on setting up the show for the Libertarian Convention. So a lot of really awesome stuff is in the works. And it's thanks to all of you who are members. So we'd love to have you call in and talk to you. Smash that like button. Follow the show. You follow me personally at Timcast on Instagram and X, but also rumble.com/Timcast IRL. All of those are important for what we have working on right now. It's in the mix, and subscribe to this channel. Matt, do you want to shout anything out?
Make sure to follow Free the People on X. Everything else, X is my favorite because we get to publish whatever we want. Producing a lot of comedy, as I mentioned earlier. You can find it on X and like our stuff.
Right on.
I am Phil It Remains on Twix. I'm Phil It Remains official on Instagram. The band is All That Remains. You can go to www.found.ee/divine and pre-save All That Remains new single. It'll be available. It'll populate tonight. It's for Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, Tidal, and Deezer. We're gonna be hitting the road with Megadeth and Mudvayne on the Destroy All Enemies tour starting August 2nd until September 28th or something like that. Come catch us. And you can follow us on Instagram. You can follow us on all of the what's it called? The digital service providers that I listed. And don't forget, the left lane is for crime.
The link is in the description below.
Yes, it is. That's it.
Yeah, you have to go to the link immediately. I'm Hannah Claire Brimlow. I'm a writer for scnr.com. That's Scanner News. I'm so glad to see Matt again. It's been a little while since you're on the show. You should follow all of Scanner's work at Timcast News on Twitter and Instagram. They're great. Like I said, Chris Berman makes me laugh every single day. If you want to follow me personally, I'm on Instagram at hannahclaire.b, and I'm on Twitter at hcbrimlow. Bye, Serge.
Peace. We will see you all over at timcast.com in about a minute. Thanks for hanging out.